Right now, in the cafes and streets of Vienna, there are an estimated 7,000 foreign intelligence operatives actively working. It's an open secret. In Austria's capital, spying on other countries is basically legal. This bizarre reality did not happen by accident. It is the direct fallout of a desperate diplomatic gamble made on May 15, 1955. Welcome to the channel. Today, we are breaking down how the 1955 Austrian State Treaty inadvertently built the ultimate safe haven for international spies. To understand how we got here, we have to look at the map of Europe right after World War II. After the fall of the Nazis, Austria was liberated, but immediately divided into 4 distinct occupation zones controlled by the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Even the capital city, Vienna, was carved up into sectors. Up north, this exact same 4-power arrangement permanently tore Germany into 2 separate countries. But Austria remained intact, stuck in a tense limbo behind the Iron Curtain, entirely surrounded by these heavily armed occupation zones. The nation was held hostage in a Cold War standoff. If Austrian leaders couldn't engineer a diplomatic escape route, their country was on track to be physically torn apart. For 10 years, the Austrian people lived under military occupation. They navigated a landscape of massive rubble, bombed-out buildings, and severe economic hardship. The Soviet-controlled zone posed a specific, terrifying threat. Crossing from the Russian sector into the Western zones meant passing through strict military checkpoints, and many feared these temporary lines would soon harden into permanent borders. Western and Soviet diplomats tried to negotiate an exit strategy, but the talks went nowhere. Over the course of a decade, the occupying powers held exactly 379 treaty meetings, and every single one of them failed. Joseph Stalin outright refused to give up the Soviet foothold in Central Europe. For Moscow, holding Austria was a crucial advantage in the larger military strategy against the West. As long as Stalin was alive, a permanently divided Austria seemed inevitable. To get their sovereignty back, the Austrians would have to pay a massive diplomatic ransom. The geopolitical turning point arrived in 1953, when Stalin died. Under Nikita Khrushchev, East-West relations experienced a brief thaw. Moscow came to the table with a strict offer. The Soviet army would withdraw, but only if Austria promised to adopt permanent Swiss-style neutrality and ban all foreign military bases from its soil. After intense final negotiations, the Austrian delegation traveled to the Soviet Union and signed the Moscow Memorandum, accepting these conditions. This paved the way for May 15, 1955. Inside the ornate halls of Vienna's Belvedere Palace, the Allied powers and the Austrian government gathered to sign the Austrian State Treaty. The final ratified document bound the 4 occupying powers to a complete military withdrawal, formally restoring Austria as a sovereign, independent state. Stepping out onto the palace balcony, Foreign Minister Leopold Figl held up the signed paper and announced to the crowd, "Austria is free." It was a massive victory, but it came with a binding string attached. Austria bought its freedom by trading away its right to ever join a military alliance for the rest of the Cold War. This withdrawal was a historical anomaly. It was the only time during the entire Cold War that the Soviet Union voluntarily retreated from a European territory it had captured. The agreement created a physical, neutral wedge right in the middle of the continent, permanently separating NATO forces in Italy and West Germany from the Soviet bloc troops stationed in Hungary and Czechoslovakia. This is a record of the constitutional amendment passed by the Austrian parliament to enforce that status. In it, the country declares, quote, "of her own free will, her perpetual neutrality." But that exact neutrality created a massive, unintended legal consequence. To remain truly non-aligned, Austrian law was written so that espionage is only a crime if it directly targets the Austrian state itself. If you wanted to spy on another country, you were in the clear. This legal loophole allowed foreign agencies like the CIA and the KGB to set up shop in Vienna and operate openly against each other without fear of local prosecution. This culture of espionage quickly took root in the city's infrastructure. British double agent Kim Philby used Vienna's sewer tunnels for smuggling operatives underground, and decades later, the city hosted the massive 2010 airport tarmac spy swap between Washington and Moscow. The diplomatic treaty designed to shield Austria from being destroyed by the Cold War accidentally turned its capital city into the conflict's most active shadow battlefield. If you want to see more deep dives into the hidden geopolitics that shape our world, hit the subscribe button and we'll see you in the next episode.